everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video is square 10 in our year-long crochet along, the Grantastic crochet along. We're calling it the Grantastic crochet along because each month we're doing a 6-inch granny square and we think it's pretty Grantastic. Each month we're doing a 6-inch square and we're doing 4 or more of each square so that at the end of the year we can put it together and make a blanket. Now, this is square number 10, which means we only have 2 more squares after this before we can put our blanket together. Don't worry. If you haven't heard of our Grantastic crochet along, you can always get started anytime that you want to. The crochet patterns and the videos will always be there for you to look at and to use. Now I'll put the link for the crochet patterns down in the notes underneath this video, and you can find all the videos in my playlist here on YouTube. Just look for the playlist that says Grantastic Crochet Along 2019. Square number 10 is called the Windows Granny Square, and that's because it looks like it has windows. Now, we need to remember that we need to use the same crochet hook that we've been using since the beginning of our project. And I've been using my H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. And I recommend you use the same hook. Now remember, if your squares are coming out too big, you may want to go down a hook size. And if they're coming out too small, you can always go up a hook size if needed, because everyone crochets differently. Some crochet tighter and some crochet just a little bit looser. So you may have to adjust that. Just be sure that your squares are coming out to 6 inches. The other thing we need to remember is to use the same weight yarn. If you began, like I did, using the medium weight number 4 yarn, I'm going to continue using that throughout my entire crochet along project. I've been using this teal color, and I'm really excited to see how it's going to turn out. This is Red Heart Super Saver. I believe it's called Aqua, but I'm not really remembering because I don't have the labels anymore. I rolled it up into cakes so that I could use a cake for each square. If you began using, say, cotton or wool, make sure you're using the same fiber, because you don't want to mix your fibers, because remember, wool felts and sometimes cotton can shrink and your blanket will not end up all the same size. So even if you're switching colors, which you certainly can, I'm doing all mine in the same color, but if you switched around and used up some of your scraps, make sure you're using all the same fiber for your squares, because if you put it through the laundry, you don't want to mess up your beautiful blanket that you work so hard on. The other things that you'll need, of course, are your scissors and a needle for weaving in ends. Let's get started with the Windows Granny Square, square 10 in our Grantastic crochet along. We're going to begin with our slip knot. We're going to chain 5, and we're going to join this into a circle. So we'll put the tail of our yarn over our hook and pull it through the loop, and then we'll snug that down, and then we'll make a little stay knot so our chain 5 loop doesn't come undone. We'll go in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch 15 more double crochets in this chain 5 loop. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. That's our double crochet. And remember, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're stitching 15 double crochets, so we'll have a total of 16 counting our chain 3. And we are putting a lot of stitches in this chain 5 loop, so it might be a little bit snug, but don't worry about it. It'll be just fine. You'll also notice I'm stitching over my tail of yarn. That's so I can close the hole up when I'm finished, and I'll show you how to do that as well. Alright, let's see how many I've stitched. Here's my chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 double crochets counting my chain 3. Now I'm going to turn this over and pull on that just a little bit to close up that hole. There we go. Now I'm going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, then pull that loop over the loop, or in the loop that's on my hook, and chain 4. And this is how row 1 should look. Now I'm going to turn this over and pull on that some more. I'm going to go ahead and take my needle, thread that tail of yarn on my needle, and weave that in. And if you go ahead and do this now, you don't have to worry about it later. It'll be all done, and one less tail you'll have to deal with. There we go. Now row 1 is complete. 16 double crochets. After we joined, we chained 4. That's because it counts as a double crochet chain 1. We're going to double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 4, and then we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next stitch. And then we'll chain 2. There we go. We'll skip the next stitch and we'll stitch a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the next stitch. And chain 2. And so what we're doing is we're stitching a V-stitch, which is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, and then double crochet, chain 2, skip 1, and then V-stitch in the next. So we're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next. Chain 2, skip the next stitch, and stitch a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch. Chain 2, skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next. Chain 2, skip the next, and V-stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Then we'll chain 2 and double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, we're going to join to the chain 3 of that chain 4, because remember it counted as a double crochet chain 1. So we'll join with our slip stitch to the 3rd chain. Then we're going to slip stitch in this chain 1 space and chain 3. All right, now for row 2, you should have 4 V-stitches and 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets with our chain 2s in between. For row 3, our chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to stitch another double crochet in that chain 1 space. We're going to chain 2 and then stitch 2 more double crochets in that chain 1 space. So in that first V-stitch, we stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets because our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. We're going to chain 2. We're going to place a double crochet in the double crochet and chain 2. Then we'll come to our next chain 1 space of our next V-stitch and we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And then we'll repeat what we did over here. Chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, and chain 2. That brings us to our next V-stitch, and we'll do the same thing. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Chain 2. We'll double crochet in the double crochet and chain 2. This brings us to our last corner. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in that chain 1 space of our V-stitch. Chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, chain 2, and now we're going to join to the chain 3 and chain 3. And this is how row 3 should look. Our corners, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochets in each of those V-stitches. Then we chain 2, we double crocheted in the double crochet, chain 2. And that's what forms those windows or holes in our granny square. All right, we're ready for row 4. Our chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to stitch a double crochet in this double crochet, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in the corner. Then we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of these 2 double crochets. Then we'll chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, chain 2, and that brings us to the next corner. We're going to place a double crochet, get a hold of that yarn there, a double crochet in those 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the corner, in that chain 2 space. There we go. Then we'll double crochet in these 2 double crochets. chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, chain 2, and then we'll repeat 1 double crochet in the 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in the corner, one double crochet in each of these 2 double crochets, chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, there we go, and chain 2. See how that's looking? All right, let's do this last one. 1 double crochet in these 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in the corner, and then 1 double crochet in these 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, chain 2, double crochet in the double crochet, and chain 2. Now we're at our chain 3, so we're going to join to the top, there we go, with a slip stitch and chain 3. All right, and this is the way it should look for row 4. We now have 4 double crochets, chain 2, and 4 double crochets, chain 2, our double crochet, chain 2, and repeat all the way around. And this is what's forming those cute little windows. Now our last row here, row number 5, we're going to stitch a row of solid double crochets. All right, so what we're going to do, our chain 3 counts is our first double crochet. We're going to double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Then in the corner we'll stitch our 2 double crochets and chain 2 and 2 double crochets. And then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in these 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then this brings us to our first chain 2 space on the side. We're going to stitch 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space. 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in the double crochet. Then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in that next chain 2 space. 1 and 2. And see how that works as a solid row of double crochet around? All right, this brings us to our next corner. We're going to double crochet in each of these double crochets. Then that brings us to our chain 2 space in the corner, and we'll stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And this brings us across our second side. We'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of those 4 double crochets. we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet in the double crochet, two double crochets in the chain 2 space, and then that brings us to our next side. Let me turn this so you can see. And what we're doing is we're basically stitching a solid row of double crochets. All right, so I'm going to continue on around with what we've been doing and meet back up to my chain 3. I've completed all 4 sides, and I'm coming back over this way where I did the double crochets. We did 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet in the double crochet, 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space, and then we're going to join to the chain 3. And then we're finished. So I've cut my yarn, go behind the next stitch and grab that loop and pull it to the back and tie off. And that's our square number 10, the Windows Granny Square. Now don't forget, you need to make at least 4 of each square in order to have enough to make our blanket. And we just have 2 more months left and we can put it all together.